Hello, my name is Asher. I did an independent study in May on social media and privacy over the network. In specific, I did my independent study on Reddit and its lack of SSL for private messages and the implications that poses if somebody's just sitting in a coffee shop browsing Reddit and decides to check their private messages. Granted, if you're not Snowden, this probably shouldn't matter to you, but it is significant and a kind of fun trick to know. So the way you set up this lab is that you have a Backtrack 5 install on a virtual machine. If you want to do analysis of browser cache files and local data, you can use a Virgin XP install and then do your browsing on there and route your traffic through the Backtrack machine. But for most regular people, you can just do this on Backtrack. If you just want the actual data coming over the wire and nothing else, Backtrack is fine. So I've included install instructions. Those are with the data of the class. You don't really need to look at that necessarily. And here's how I set up Reddit. There are two users. I actually tried to capture the authentication, but it turns out that despite not having HTTPS on their entire front page, the actual login process is secured. So my two users just passed a direct message instead. So that second account testing login procedure itself never actually materialized. This is the private message. Subject line, secret things, and body, this is my sensitive information. That was sent from user punk002 to user punk001. And then I captured punk001 opening this message and browsing a little bit. So on to capture and analysis. In order to do this, you'll need Wireshark installed. Here is the command to do this. I mean, it should be installed by default if you're using Backtrack. I guess you could do this on XP if you really wanted to, but some of the commands wouldn't work. So here's the command for capturing traffic on port 80. And then writing that to a file called rawcapture.cap. That'll capture all the web traffic, normal browsing traffic, just coming over the wire. So then, once you have your raw capture file, if you open this in Wireshark, that's what it should look like. Once you have your raw capture file, you can run another command with Wireshark to take that and convert it into just the HTML that was passed in there, and then output that to a text file. And you'll get a 2-column text file that looks just like the output in Wireshark. So once that opens, here we go. So we have 2 columns here. This is the hex data, and then this is all of the web page stuff here, translated roughly sometimes on the right. This isn't very human-friendly, so the next step in basic method number 1 is just to cat the output. So what this does is it takes all the lines with the subject and the message parameter in them, and it prints them, in this case to a text file. So what that does is you get an output kind of like this. Again, not super human friendly, but what this does is this lets you figure out where the subject is. Again, you can see my secret things subject there, and then sometimes it will catch the message body as well. So that would be what this grep command right here prints out for you. The problem with that is that if this subject is split across more than one line, grep will completely ignore it. Grep is designed for searching every single line, not necessarily searching for a word broken between 2 lines. So this is very, very simple, and it's more like like a dragnet approach. Which brings me to advanced method number 2. So we use the same capture file that we had earlier, this old bad boy. And instead of doing that little grep thing to get a piece of data that may or may not be exactly what we want, we can just go here and use the GUI to export this data and the objects inside of this data, specifically the HTTP objects. So once we have this, it's just a simple matter of scrolling through here and looking for things that we might want to save. So in this case, somewhere in here there should be the Reddit inbox. Here it is. So this will just save the actual HTML file as it would appear in your browser just to a directory. So again, not the most optimized. You still have to wade through all that gunk in there. If they were visiting Google at the same time, if they were checking their Facebook profile at the same time, you'd still have to wade through that. But it's a way to see that traffic. So here from method 2, here's the inbox file. You can open it in any web browser. It's just standard HTML. And what you get is, if it loads, something like this. Perfectly humanly readable. The only problem is that you have to wade through all that gunk beforehand. And going through the GUI every time isn't necessarily a good option. So that brings me to advanced method number 3, which is the last and final method I used. In order to do this, you need to install a tool called JustNiffer. I've included the commands in order to do that, but I also made another capture here. You could use the original one, but this capture has more data to simulate something that might be a little bit more realistic. So once you've taken a capture, again, you can just use this script in JustNiffer to grab all of the HTTP traffic out and save all of the objects to a directory. In this case, it's temp export with the user flag nobody. This last thing, the user flag, is very important. If you don't do it, it won't export at all, and you'll have a huge headache. So once you do that, you can do a whole bunch of fun things with it, because now you have a folder. I'll show you what it will look like. So let's just pretend I'm not on my desktop and that I'm actually in this temp export folder. Here's what it will look like. These are all the different domains that got pulled out of the traffic analysis. In this case, here's the Reddit one. So what you can do with that is a whole bunch of fun manipulation. Here I did a cat command to search for subject and get them all onto a line. So what this will do is it will go through the reddit.com folder, go through all the HTML, and then take out the subject lines from each bit of HTML. So what you're going to be left with is just all of the subjects of all the different private messages that somebody's received. Or alternately, all of the subject lines of all of the comments and things that somebody's made. So this will just print it out like straight onto your terminal. But there's more that you can do. What you can also do, if you want to just use the browser experience that we had earlier, you can take all of the message files. So this little underscore message, if you notice here, all of the unreads and the replies and the inboxes all have that little dash message prefix. So what you can do is you can say, I want all of those message files and all of the user files. The user ones would be like your main landing page. That would show some private information, not as much as the other ones. And I want to put them all into one big HTML file. And what you get with this command right here is one giant browsable glob that you can just open up in a web browser and then Control F your way through. just looking for things, you can just scroll all the way through it too. So here as it's loading, you can see it's just stitched together. So these are all of their various pages that were loaded. So you can see I clicked on comment replies and I clicked on all, and here are the pages just as they were served to me, and they're all stitched together and I can just browse through them. So then the other thing that you can do is just take all of the HTML files and do basically the same thing. Stitch them together so you can search them. Again, you can do this with any website, really. As long as the content went over the wire, you could change this reddit.com right here to pretty much any domain and then cat everything into one big file to look through. So now we can look at all of their browsing activity page by page. Granted, this will take a little bit to load, but you can just scroll through here and see exactly what they were seeing as they were browsing. So here's the home page as I saw it. And no, it's still loading. Okay, so here's the home page as I saw it. Here are the top posts. And then if I clicked on comments and inbox like I did, you can see all of that. So this just puts all the web pages together for your browsing pleasure. Super useful. And definitely automatable. So that file is the easiest way to do it. So what you're left with at the very end of the day is an output that's very easily analyzed with scripts and things. If you use the JustNiffer output method, you can just go through here and at your leisure take web pages out and then manipulate them via command line and scripts and things like that, and have an output that's very easily automated and that you don't lose anything with. So here's just a basic input. Here's all the resources that I gave with this presentation. They're all included, so you can follow my footsteps exactly if you want to. So this is just an index of all of them. And I've included also some process notes of just my thoughts as I did this. But that's generally the summation of it. Feel free to tinker around. I'd love to see if people are feeling up to it. Some methods for analyzing the JustNiffer output, because that really is exploitable, the way it just plops everything out. So there's so many things. If somebody could do a GUI front end to analyze this, for instance, it would be so exploitable. You can make like a little collage of all their web traffic, or even run scripts on this just to pull out information. Anyway, that's what I did for my project. I hope you are a little bit more worried about your private messages on Reddit, and your non-encrypted web traffic in general, because this could be done at like a coffee shop and nobody would really notice. This is also probably a good time to plug the Tor project and the various VPNs that are out there, because although you don't realize it most of the time, certainly I don't realize it most of the time, so much web traffic is just out there for people to sniff. Anyway, that's my independent project. I hope you enjoyed this video, and have fun.